There we go. Can you hear me? You might be muted.
All right, test.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you. Some.
You can't hear me.
Oh no, I can. We're good. We're good.
Excellent. All right. So, welcome to another weird episode of the Man v Mob podcast. How productive have you been able to be over the last 2 weeks?
From like a work perspective.
Yeah, from a work perspective, let's say.
So the last 2 weeks have probably been the busiest I've been at. I don't know how much you had to interact with other people on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
For me, it turns out not that much. And because of kind of expansive world fallout and, you know, various factories not producing what they're supposed to, we've been dealing with a lot of very urgent issues that are bearing down on us.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think it was Tuesday this week. Yeah, I was just doing like 12 hours straight of work.
Just on Tuesday, 12 hours straight. Wow.
Yeah, it was like more or less. It was like 8 a.m. to 6, and then I took like an hour break, and I finished it up because I was waiting for a person to get back to me.
Okay. And
Because
I was gonna say, are people improvising what they?
That's kind of what it was. So not to get like hyper technical, but it was a specific part on one of the circuit boards that we make.
Yeah.
The producer, manufacturer, whatever, called us and said the factory stopped, so we aren't going to be able to buy any more for 6 weeks. And we happen to be low at the moment in terms of our company stock, and basically in order to make it through the 6 weeks we were 30,000 parts short.
Mm-hmm.
And you needed 16 of them, based on the fact that you need 16 of them per board that you're building, and it's like our highest selling board. So since that piece of circuitry is my responsibility, it went all the way down the chain to me, and they were like, hey, here's 4 backup options, let us know what's going down.
Okay, so they just somebody comes up and basically dumps the metaphorical box on your desk and says,
yeah. And I told them right away, I was like, well, option 1 and 2 are great. And then this was on Monday. Tuesday, they were like, oh, actually, we can't buy any of those. So tell us if you can buy 3. There were 60,000 of them available last night, and there's 30 now. So in the back of my head, I was like, sounds like by the time I get you an answer, there's going to be 0. But I'll work as hard as I can. So I was like all day checking with various people, making sure we weren't going to blow the whole board up because it wasn't an exact fit.
It sounds like all the built-in inertia of going through the process. There's some bridge in Scotland where by the time they're done painting it, they have to start over again. It kind of sounds like that same process here.
Is there a name for that? That bridge?
The bridge?
You know, there's like what's that?
The bridge itself, or like that phenomenon?
Well, I kind of stepped on my own tongue here. I was trying to say, what's the name of that bridge? There should be a well-known name for this phenomenon that's named after the bridge.
Yeah.
You've heard of like the ship of Theseus?
I've heard of Theseus, not the ship of Theseus. Explain.
It's like a thought experiment that there was like a ship in Theseus in Greece or ancient Greece, and over time, like a year after its maiden voyage, they had to replace the sail, and then a year after that, they had to replace the anchor. And then 5 years down the road, they actually replanked the entire thing. And then the point is, like 20 years down the road, every single piece of that ship is not the original. Is it still the same ship?
Okay, so it's an identity problem. Yeah, I've heard the same thing. I've heard the same thing with an axe. Just a simple like.
Right. Exactly. If you have an axe. 100%. So the point is, like, the name of that phenomenon is the ship of Theseus, because that was like the thought experiment it was born out of. similarly, this will be the Bridge of Scotland. Like
Exactly.
if you're talking about, oh, this is such a Bridge of Scotland scenario, you'll immediately be like, oh, I know what they're referencing.
Exactly. I like that Bridge of Scotland works. And by the way, the version of that I've heard of before is, I think, the heap paradox, where it's like when something happens gradually, at what point is it different? Like if you gain a pound a day and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, at what point are you obese? You know,
right. How many grains of sand is a heap?
Exactly. Yeah.
Or it was a pile or whatever. Yeah. No, totally understand what you mean. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's we got to codify the way we describe things for, 21st century ease of access.
Absolutely.
I like it. We're groundbreaking here.
So you're able to, despite these frustrations with work, still hopefully find things to do. And I know you were talking before off, when we were trying our first meeting via Google Hangouts, you were talking about how your friend is hosting a 60-person, was it trivia?
I actually don't know how many people there are.
Okay.
She sent it out to a bunch of people. That number was pulled out of thin air. But yeah, I think she's doing like a trial run. So this is a friend of mine that actually used to host trivia at a bar. Mm-hmm. We go to it fairly often. She was a great host, and then she moved, so she stopped. And I don't know if it's at the same bar, but the point is that next week when she runs this privately, it's kind of a trial run. Mm-hmm. For her to work out the kinks, and some organization, if this goes well, I don't know if they're going to be in attendance, but they're going to hire her to do virtual trivia for the next couple of weeks.
Well, that's a good position to be in.
Yeah.
Right now everybody's just trying to say, how can I not be entirely useless?
Right. I don't understand the financial benefits of this yet. Like the point is of a bar trivia.
Everybody's
go to the bar. You're going to buy drinks, you're going to buy food. So that's the incentive for them to host it. I guess it's just like good PR to be like, hey, we've continued to host over this, like,
yeah.
So, stay loyal to us.
Keeping their company name or their bar name in mind, although it's not like, Netflix where they're a consistent content platform. It's like I don't think people really, after something like this, keep a bar name in mind. They're like, oh yeah, that's the bar that hosted that quarantine.
Right. I totally agree with you. Yeah. But the idea, I'm not trying to be too cynical about it. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Let's not overthink this.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I guess as long as people are just occupying themselves with coming up with ideas, right now there are going to be a lot of strange ones or ones that don't really work out as well. A lot of
exactly. Over time. I don't know how many of the trends you've caved to. So far, the biggest two I've seen are watching Tiger King.
Yep.
I haven't started yet. I probably will this weekend.
And
I got to finish my. What's that? You did it the whole thing?
No, I was going to say, and being annoying on social media maybe is the second one.
Oh, well, that's just perennial.
Yeah.
But that's not exclusive to this. The other one that I've seen a ton of is people making their own bread.
Oh, yeah, I haven't started that yet. The Tiger King one is definitely the most obvious. Generally, I would be, if that didn't align with like the quirky kind of stuff that I'm interested in already, then I definitely wouldn't have jumped on board with it. But that was kind of the perfect weirdness that I'm up for. Not right. It was like borderline Jerry Springer-ish, but no, it was like a little bit more highbrow.
In the sense that you kind of found it exploitative?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt that way too. And actually there was, do you know who John Ronson is? He's kind of like this, I don't know if I want to call him, he's almost like a gonzo journalist. Like Hunter S. Thompson, where he made himself part of the story. So he goes around, like, have you heard of Louis Theroux before? He's on BBC, and he goes and stays with different groups of people, like, the Westboro Baptist Church or something like that.
Gotcha.
So this guy, John Ronson, actually, he wrote a book called The Psychopath Test. And he was talking about how, through his research, he found out how a lot of television agencies, the programming people actually, I mean, this is kind of obvious, but they are so exploitative with the people that they seek out. They seek out people who are like the fringiest fringe, and then they kind of a lot of times fuck them over. Like, do you remember there was a show called The Swan that was on, and it was like it was like women get plastic surgery. They go from the ugly duckling to the swan.
Oh, gotcha.
That was the whole purpose of the show. This was like probably early 2000s, and they brought a woman on, and they had her before reveal, and then they were interviewing her family, and they encouraged the family to say like really nasty things about her, like, oh, I can't even be around her, she's just so hideous and stuff like that. And they were supposed to play this reel of the family saying things like this, and then they were going to have this this woman get her plastic surgery or whatever. What happened was they recorded the reel of the family that was encouraged to say this terrible shit, and then the producers ended up coming and being like, yeah, the show got canceled, like, sorry, we can't do your surgery.
And then they showed her the reel anyway.
The lady saw the reel, like,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just like there's shit like that happens, and like how much of that kind of shit was happening in Tiger King. I do feel
great deal.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen a minute of the show yet, and a great deal. Yeah.
But it was also like a meta documentary. It was partly recording like a camera crew behind a camera crew, because there was a guy within the Tiger King series that was filming a documentary, and this was just showing back a step too. So it was like, because he was talking about how he was setting up all this different stuff to go down, and how part of it was just happening and part of it he would
orchestrate.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this kind of almost fourth wall aspect of it at all.
Yeah, there is a bit of a fourth wall.
I'm always into those kind of meta context ways of doing filmmaking. Yeah. Like I said, at this rate of, we're sitting around just consuming media all day, I'll probably get to that by Sunday. So
yeah, it's definitely, I'm obviously like you in the sense of I tend to avoid the bandwagon stuff, but yeah, this was thoroughly compelling throughout.
Gotcha. Yeah, and certainly less effort to turn that on than to make your sourdough starter. The point of that is that it's literally just what is it, flour, yeast, and water.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you leave it to sit either in your fridge or outside for like 24 hours. And then
is this stuff that people get at their local grocery store, or is everybody buying the same kit on Amazon or something?
You don't even need a kit. It's water, flour, yeast.
Yeah, I honestly don't even know where one gets yeast. Is there just like packets of yeast?
I'm pretty sure you can get that in a grocery store.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Somewhere. You're right. I've never sought this out. I can't give you an actual answer. But yeah. Maybe that's just like the specific Twitter sphere that I'm in, but that was the big one last week.
Well, somebody, a close friend today, just said that they started neurotic baking, essentially. And I said, okay. So that was the first one I had seen, but then you're telling me this is a part of a larger.
Yeah. It makes sense. Takes up a long period of time, which is, I guess, what you're trying to just run out the clock. And there's some form of reward at the end.
I don't. That seems like an unfortunate way to look at it, to just run out the clock. I'm not saying you're going to do insanely productive stuff when this has been sprung upon everybody, but just to run out the clock, it's just, I don't know, the idea of
that's not necessarily my personal viewpoint, but that's the general sense.
I know it's right. Just it's like there can be more productive uses of the time besides like endlessly generating new loaves of bread. Or
that being said, like, I do get this sort of existential dread of trying to run out the clock.
Yeah.
Like, I totally understand it, if nothing else. Like, the other big joke is that, like, everybody's stuck at home, so there's going to be all these, like, quarantine albums released in, like, a month. And I was talking to my friend who I, like, make music with earlier today, actually, and I had sent him a file, like, probably a week ago at this point, saying, like, we should do some back and forth collaboration. Mm-hmm. And he sent today, like, dude, sorry, I honestly just have felt so uncreative with everything that's going on. It's just like a burden in every sense of the word, and creatively too. So, like, I haven't even had a chance to really get in the right mindset. And I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, because once I sent that to you and you didn't respond, I was also kind of like, okay. And I let it go, right? Like I didn't pester him or anything. I was just like, okay, that's fine too.
I get it.
Because
It saps your
yeah,
energy.
yeah, it's exactly everything just is kind of energy sapping, right?
But so part of what's important right now obviously is to like keep engaging with people and to keep morale up and all of that, but I also think that if people allow it to, then other people will take up all of their time, in the sense of people's sharing of memes, people's, hey, we need to just, I mean, you don't always need to be in contact. It's important to have like maybe a scheduled thing, but like I
Right.
think people piss away their time by it just, it's like sand. It fills any these mini points of contact, text messages, Zoom meetings, everything can just fill in every cavity of time
Yeah,
that
no, I hear you.
exists.
Is that something that you personally have been challenged with?
No, but I see how it can occur, because it's like there's lots of people that want to stay engaged and stay in contact, and I think if you don't have some hard walls of how you spend your how you spend your time, you don't set aside people time and you time in any given day, then you're just
Yeah.
constantly going to be, it's like purely living on behalf of others, and you're not going to
Right.
have like moments of creativity and things like that maybe.
I think it's probably like an effort to establish some form of routine when you kind of no longer have as strict as one of you as you generally do. Like I think you're well suited to adapt more than most people as somebody who's self-employed
Yeah.
and kind of goes with the whole gig economy and is kind of used to like writing things out and adapting on
Mhm.
a day-to-day basis than most people are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely got the sort of longer runway into this than a lot of people. So I certainly,
Exactly. You've been
I'm
prepping for a
not
year.
trying to, I'm definitely not trying to say, hey, everybody, just figure it out. Simply
Right. Right.
that
Right.
that having group time and you time is important, particularly because you're just talking about that guy as the example that was saying that he's finding it really difficult to
Mm-hmm.
um, be creative right now.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, it's also nice that I don't have my roommate isn't here. He escaped. So it's easier for me to have as much me time as I want because there's nobody here
Yeah.
and to
I
actually face-to-face interact with. So
I still haven't seen that movie, The Lighthouse, but my one roommate who's here, one of my roommates right off the bat, the one that lives upstairs, just like fled to Vermont early on and was just
yeah.
like, I'm out, peace. And I respect that. You know,
Yep.
that's actually a good plan. And I have another roommate who's here right now, and he sent me a little while back a meme of Robert Pattinson in Lighthouse, like staring at the, uh, I believe, Willem Dafoe, and
That was
using
like a
basically
day 3
yeah,
quarantine tweet for me.
every roommate right now, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yep. I sent out that exact same thing.
um,
Yep. Which you
so
should, by the way. And we've talked about it previously, but I believe it's coming out to various streaming sites next week. It's sometime really soon.
well, I have no excuse, because as you know, if I'm watching movie 43 in The Hunt, then I should probably be watching Lighthouse
Pretty soon.
and The Prestige. So
The Prestige is the one that we discussed, yeah.
yeah,
Which that's 2006. I actually don't know off the top of my head. My
but
point is,
that was a Chris Nolan one. That's in my wheelhouse.
yeah. No, I just meant that's you can find that pretty easily at this point.
Yeah, shouldn't be a problem.
Yes, no, it should be. And again, the reason you're bringing it up is because we kind of last time we met, we were talking about Christopher Nolan, and I said that for me, it's between that and Memento, and it really kind of depends on my mood.
Hmm,
But usually, I lean towards The Prestige as being kind of the pinnacle of his filmmaking.
sure,
I stand by that right now. My current mood agrees with that statement.
that's good. Do
Yeah.
you think that Netflix generally produces lower quality content, or was that a phase, or do you just not agree with that at all?
Um,
Netflix originals, obviously.
right, of course. I think that it depends how you define. If you're just talking about an actual average rating of every single thing that they put out, it's probably going to be abysmal.
Yeah.
Because 80% of what they put out, you won't even interact with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's targeted at either young kids or people whose tastes are completely different from yours.
Yep. Well, they went for everything, right? They just said, and that's kind of the joke, is Netflix just said, oh, hey, you have an idea, we'll make it.
Exactly. And I think over the last year, there's been a shift. And I mean, I don't have any idea of Netflix's finances. I'm not like an industry insider whatsoever. Yeah. But from what I understand is, I actually think it was kind of a reaction to, you could argue, was a self-induced sort of stigma. Mm-hmm. And when the first couple of big movies that they released were kind of blackballed at the Oscars, they kind of made a pivot towards, if not completely reining that in, shifting it somewhat and focusing on at least putting out some high-profile content regularly. Mm-hmm. I think that it's interesting because they kind of started at that point, became this giant in the industry, dipped as they were like, let's just establish our library and put everything out, mm-hmm. and then have kind of done the full 360.
They were
the first series was House of Cards, right? Which is
House of Cards, yep.
And I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe the very first again, it might not be the very first. One of the first Netflix movies was Beasts of No Nation, which mm-hmm. was an incredible film.
Was that about the African country? I'm thinking. Oh, yeah. That was
child soldiers in. I actually don't remember what country.
Yeah, what's that actor's name? Idris Elba? Is that who it was?
Idris Elba.
Okay, yeah, that was a great movie.
I remember, and I think that was like 2014. It was
Is that Uganda? Is it Uganda?
Possibly.
Okay.
The point was, I remember that year thinking that him getting a Best Actor nomination was a gimme, and that personally I thought he deserved to win the award, mm-hmm. and it wasn't even in the conversation. And then that continued, and like I said, at a certain point, I think there was a shift to actually righting that ship. And I mean, over the last 2 years, we've had Roma, which didn't win, even though it should have. And then this year they had Irishman, Marriage Story, and did they have one other? They had at least 2 Best Picture nominations.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think, again, I don't know all the industry forces at play here, mm-hmm. but yeah, there's kind of like a dip and regain momentum on their end.
Okay. It seems like HBO was first established, and now
HBO has always had that prestige TV streaming sort of, for one reason or another.
And it seems like Amazon Go and Hulu are sort of fast tracking what Netflix did.
Yeah.
But they have much.
Amazon had Transparent, right?
Yeah, Transparent, and then I just recently. Oh, actually, Watchmen was on HBO, but there's been a couple shows that I've seen recently that were big for. It was like that superhero one, Brothers, and a bunch of not shows that I watch, but
The Boys.
The Boys, yeah, exactly, not Brothers. Good.
That show's really good.
Check it out. Okay.
That show is really good. I actually think you'll like it because the entire premise is that it's supposed to be not necessarily realistic. Obviously, it's about superheroes. Yeah. But kind of a much more grounded take about
isn't it kind of like Watchmen in that regard?
Actually, much more so.
Okay.
They fully leaned into the fact that if superheroes exist in our world, it would not be this glimmering, hopeful beacon of, the kind of classic Superman symbol, and it would probably be, corporatized, rife with corruption, and kind of sinister underneath.
Okay, that does make you want to watch it.
Yeah, and that's very quickly established. Who Carl Urban is, obviously.
Oh, actually, no. I don't know who Carl Urban is.
Eomer in Lord of the Rings. He's the Doctor in Star Trek. He was Dredd in the most recent Dredd movie.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Yeah, he
One of
was
the
like,
best actors. Yeah.
wasn't he an elf in Lord of the Rings? He
He wasn't an elf.
a rider of Gondor or
He's
something.
the rider of Rohan. Yeah, yeah.
Rider of yeah.
You're pretty close. Yeah,
Okay.
my inner Lord of the Rings nerd is showing. But yeah, just an incredible actor who's like, if you look at his resume, the range is incredible.
Yeah.
But he's arguably the star.
No, right?
What's that?
He's the main hero, right? In the
Yeah, he's an anti-hero at best, I think is the way to look at it. Like yeah. But yeah, he such a convincing and conviction heavy. I don't know what the adjective of conviction is. Convictionful, that's definitely not it. But I'm circling it. Anyway.
You've already made up terms. We can keep convictionful.
Convictionful. And the Bridge of Scotland.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wait. There totally is already a term for this.
For convictionful or Bridge of Scotland?
No, the Bridge of Scotland thing. Isn't and maybe I'm misrepresenting your original idea, but isn't that basically the same thing as the Sisyphus myth, where he's pushing the stone up the hill, and as soon as it gets to the top, it rolls all the way back down, and he has to start over eternally?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Okay, glad we solved that.
Yeah. A Sisyphean task or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. So glad we reestablished that. No, it doesn't matter. It's a Bridge of Scotland now.
Yeah, we've renamed it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the Sisyphus thing is hard to say anyway, so we've brought it down to the common person, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, it's certainly more accessible.
Yeah.
I agree. But yeah, anyway. The point that you were making before we get sidetracked is have each kind of propped up one or two things as their big go-to pinnacle show that they're using to at least bring in viewers. I mean, Amazon bought the rights, talking about Lord of the Rings, to the upcoming Lord of the Rings series, which is I think, yeah, it's supposed to be the most expensive piece of media ever made, because they spent, I believe, $250 million for the rights. That's not a single dollar of production cost, of hiring anybody, of filming. It was $250 million to the Tolkien estate to make a Lord of the Rings TV show.
Well, it can't be worse than The Hobbit. So, worse than The Hobbit, what is it? The Battle of Five Armies? Only in the
that one especially bad.
Yeah.
I'm a little cynical after the Game of Thrones botched ending, but I do like that for the most part they hired a complete nobody cast.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't I think there was maybe one or two names I recognized at all, and for your average person might be zero. That came across like, again, I just watch a lot of movies, recognize names.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
That didn't sound really pretentious to me, but a good job correcting the average person. Like I just said, it might.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's a good approach to take. I believe it's supposed to be a completely original storyline as well, set 1,000 years before the movies, or I don't know about 1,000 years, but it's like the age before. So yeah, I'm.
Is that basically Silmarillion land?
Silmarillion is the creation of
the universe of all Middle Earth.
Yeah, that's like the origin story.
Okay.
So for context, the Third Age begins when Sauron's defeated the first time. That's like sort of the prologue of Fellowship of the Ring. And the Fourth Age begins at the end of the movies when he's defeated for good, ostensibly. So this is going to be in a time period before he was defeated the first time. That's the Second Age.
I
don't remember I think the First Age is when his boss was killed. So Sauron wasn't the like original evil of Middle Earth. This other guy, like Morgoth, was. I believe that's the delineation there.
He was the apprentice.
Really getting into
Yeah.
deep lore here. I like it.
I will definitely tune into that. I do want to watch Watchmen and The Boys first. And I also, and obviously this is going to be a while
Both
before.
of those currently exist, so
Yeah.
that's a good start. Yeah,
So when is it due to come out?
not for a couple more years, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A couple things. So first of all is because you're talking about how it's the biggest budget basically ever for a piece of media. What is the deal with James Cameron? I think I've talked with you about this before. Like with his Avatar series, it really does make me think of.
That might have been your TV show because that Avatar thing, Sanity.
Okay, because I was going to say it does make me think of Gretchen. I think her name was from Mean Girls, where it's like James Cameron is trying to make fetch happen with Avatar.
Yeah.
Because I'm just looking at Avatar, going, that wasn't that good of a movie. Why do you keep trying to bring this world of Pandora and saying, and you instead of releasing just Avatar 2 10 years ago, you made it
totally agree.
7-story arc.
It has like no cultural relevance.
Yeah.
I'd say even 2 years after it happened.
Yeah. Was the world really craving more Avatar? It doesn't seem like it to me, but
I'd argue that it is not. Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah. Just I think he's at a point where studios don't, because the track record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So,
I guess so.
Which we'll see how it's out. Yeah.
In the realm of The Boys, have you seen the show? And once again, I've probably asked this before. Have you seen the show? Oh man, it was on BBC. It was Misfits.
No.
It was basically these British teenagers that were on parole, and they were doing community service. And there's this weird storm type event, and they all get unique powers, and it's basically a comedy show. And it is fairly interesting, where they all have unusual powers. Like one of them, the one of the women is so attractive to any person that touches her that she just becomes like immediately like an object of their lust, basically. And then there's another who you don't know what his power is for the longest time, and I guess it ends up being the power to to control dairy. So if somebody's drinking a glass,
you know what? I've heard of that before for sure.
Yeah.
What was his name?
What'd you say?
What was his like superhero name?
I don't know. I never actually got to the point in the show where it revealed his power. It was just him trying to figure out. He's like, "Oh, you got powers. I didn't get any powers." But it was actually a pretty funny show. And the guy that played, remember, and granted, I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but there was a character, I want to say his last name was Baratheon, who he led the Battle of the Bastards. Is that what it was called? There was an episode. I think he gets.
There's a Battle of the Bastards, but there's no Baratheons there.
Okay. Let me give more context here. And once again, I haven't really seen the show. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling stuff, but doesn't he there's a guy that gets eaten by large dogs, or he commands that somebody gets eaten by large dogs?
Yeah, and he was at Battle of the Bastards.
Okay, what was his name? The character.
Shit.
Anyway, that guy.
Ramsay Bolton.
Okay, that guy is one of the characters in the show. He's like the only one that I really recognized.
Gotcha.
But it's a good show. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is I tried watching, and I thought I was really going to like this because I like history stuff. I tried watching Man in the High Castle. Got about halfway through the first episode, and did not think it was very good. I thought the acting was subpar, and I thought it was somewhat.
To be fair, halfway through one episode's a short leash.
Yeah.
There are plenty of great TV shows that had a bad pilot.
Yeah, fair enough.
I haven't seen a minute of it. I just know its reputation. So yeah, I'm also surprised. That's also on Amazon, right?
It's an Amazon one. And it looked really compelling. So maybe I'll give it another shot, but it was just, with bad acting or some amount of melodrama, it just makes me ugh.
My biggest issue with The Boys is that, and I said before, I was like Carl Urban, and I paused. I said he's arguably the main character. There's him, and there's a younger guy. I don't know. He's probably like in his early 20s.
Uh-huh.
One of the two of them is the lead actor, depending on your point of view. I don't think he does a very good job.
Okay.
And distractingly so when you're paired up against this, like I said, just very nuanced performance from Carl Urban. He just is getting dunked on in every scene.
Yeah.
So it's to the point where it's distracting, and that's why it's like it's a very good show. Recommend it. It's not like elite.
That's why that description that you just gave of that lesser actor, the one that is distracting, that's exactly why I generally don't like kid actors.
No, he's not a kid. He's like in his 20s.
But I'm saying that that's generally the reason why I just, when there's a kid actor in the movie, I go, oh, here we go, because obviously most kids don't have acting skills. So
and when they do, it's a really pleasant surprise.
Exactly. And it makes me think of in Mad Men how they had to switch out the son about 4 times for different actors, but 3 out of the 4 of them were terrible.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if you saw JoJo Rabbit.
I did, and I thought those kids
were performances.
Yeah,
right. That's just the most recent example I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, that was really impressive.
I love the movie, but the kids were just absolute dynamite.
Oh, you said you didn't really like the movie that much?
I didn't love it. I think it was it was interesting. It was the sort of movie where like the trailer obviously caught my attention, and I was like, Taika Waititi, everything he makes is gold.
He's a cool guy. I saw an interview with him. I was like, wow, he's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
Sharp.
I do think it was kind of low-hanging fruit at the end of the day.
Sure.
I'm not sure that it did enough to warrant the sort of high-stakes game that it's sort of playing. I mean, I'm not personally one to get offended, but a lot of people would be.
Adding comedy to the Holocaust, basically.
Right. That's basically what I'm saying, right? And I enjoyed it. Again, at the end of the day, it's him kicking an imaginary Hitler through the wall. Or, spoilers, but the conclusion is him kicking him through the window or whatever and shouting "fuck off, Hitler."
Yeah.
Like, again, not an exactly a nuanced take on the current of neo-Nazism or whatever that I thought it might be.
Yeah, I will say that I did.
Maybe I'm asking too much of it. That's totally fair.
Uh-huh.
But I did, again, I think the best way to summarize my feelings is it was kind of low-hanging fruit in my opinion.
Sure. I did thoroughly enjoy Sam Rockwell's character. I generally enjoy Sam Rockwell, but
I think he makes interesting choices.
He does.
Because
your expression makes me think that you didn't like him in the movie.
I thought he did a fine job. The character was also kind of a little bit contrived, I guess is the word.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like a trope.
Yeah, he wasn't playing like a nuanced being. He was playing just.
No, I don't mean to say that. I'm just saying because I think there was the great scene where he raced to JoJo's house because he knew that that was the funniest scene in the movie, by the way. Was Stephen Merchant and all the other
he's like,
they all heil each other. He's like, we've all heiled each other and we've heiled the kid. That part was fantastic.
That made me think of something right out of The Death of Stalin, actually.
Right, exactly. And that's the kind of absurdity angle that I find interesting.
Yeah.
Rather than I guess you could make the argument that a kid kicking an imaginary Hitler through the window is absurd.
Yeah.
That's certainly true, but it's more of I don't know what the right way to phrase it is, but the Stephen Merchant scene is more what's the word I'm looking for? It's absurd in the sense that it's pointing out the inherent flaws and hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm. I think that
situation. It's pointing out the ludicrous of the situation instead of being the ludicrous situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, the higher level satire is less accessible, and I think that's why they ultimately chose to put things that are more on the nose and eye rolling.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I I'm trying to think. So there was 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Once
That he
again,
was
yeah,
nominated for.
that's another movie that I liked. I know that you and the person who I don't remember his name, I met at the pub crawl with you. He did not like
Yeah,
it.
yeah, we both right.
Yeah.
So he made that, and then he made something where he had a similar role, like the very next year, and it's slipping my mind.
Mm-hmm.
He made a couple movies in a row where he was essentially like a redeemed racist, and I just thought it was an interesting.
Oh, well, he was. There was the Green Mile.
Green Mile.
You remember? You're talking about. Oh wait, are you still talking about Sam Rockwell?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the Green Mile, he played the guy who John Coffey like coughed the bees into his face.
No, that's way
Okay.
history. I'm
Granted,
saying within
granted, he did play not a redeemed racist, but he did play a racist in that movie.
right.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, it's slipping my mind at the moment, but I think
Was it the one that Hilary Swank was in? Where she,
honestly maybe the other answer is that at the end of the day I am actually thinking of his role on JoJo Rabbit.
okay.
It says he wasn't but he's a member of the Nazi party.
Well, no. You were talking about 3 Billboards.
Yeah, and then I thought I'm just gonna. That's it. It's phone time. I'm looking it up.
Well,
Great
there was
content.
that movie that he was going to jail and he was accused, and Hilary Swank was in it. I think that might be one of them, but I don't know what he was accused of.
Maybe. I think there's a chance I just made this up because nothing's jumping out.
Yeah, I hate when you notice a trend and then the trend ends up being 2 things.
Right.
And it was in.
Oh. It wasn't okay. So I was kind of mixing things up. He played the role in 3 Billboards, and then he played Bush in Vice.
Yeah.
Not a redeemed racist, but between that and the 3 Billboards role and
he's playing a lot of disgraced people, basically.
Playing a lot of disgraced people, I guess, is what I was trying to say. Right? Okay. I kind of conflated it.
Got it.
Yeah. So I just think it's an interesting lane that he's maybe consciously or unconsciously kind of taken for himself.
Yeah, that's true. And he's so he's sort of being typecast, and he's also adding sort of like some redeeming qualities to otherwise irredeemable behavior.
Right. Except in Vice, where he was
he never gets
completely right. He was like
the
SNL level caricature.
Yep.
Right. No nuance whatsoever. Right. But that's fine. I didn't like that movie either. But yeah, that wasn't his responsibility in that one. He was a bit character. But yeah, no, I do always find it interesting when there are like casting trends, and if it's a typecasting thing or if it's somebody like selecting a certain subset of roles or trying to kind of course correct from something that they did earlier, something like that. That's it's always intriguing to me. Like obviously the big one is the Robert Pattinson acclamation.
He's been meteoric for, in my opinion.
Exactly.
He left the world of Harry Potter as Cedric Diggory and then
and Twilight
as Edward or whatever, Edward Cullen, and then you're like, all right, well this guy's just like sort of a flake, and then all of a sudden whoosh, you go, whoa.
right and the coming through as his casting in Batman, so
that'll be pretty interesing. By the way,
that will be pretty interesting.
Who's directing that, or what?
Matt Reeves.
Do you know who that is? I have no idea who that is.
I do. I don't want to butcher it, so I'll just pull up his filmography here. But it's certainly going to be kind of a new angle, if nothing else. So, yeah, he did did Cloverfield, Let Me In.
Okay. So this will be a found footage Batman.
Yeah, exactly. He did the second 2 of the 3 Planet of the Apes movies.
Oh, okay. So the new ones with the CGI. Got it.
Right.
As long as it was.
And he was an executive producer.
Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes with Mark Wahlberg.
That movie is a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen the whole thing. I've only seen the scene at the end where they're at the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah, yeah. Just classic Wahlberg ending there.
Such a bad take on an old scene. Modern
It's
reimagining.
absolute nonsense. Yeah. Well, the point, so they're at the Lincoln Memorial, except the face isn't Abe Lincoln.
Yep. Yeah, it's a ape face.
It's the ape face, right? Which, sure. Sure. That's all I have to say about that. Yeah. And I've actually been wondering recently, and I think this came up. I've been wondering if the original holds up. I've only seen it once. And the reason why it came up was because we were talking about movies that we may or may not have been too young to see at the time.
Mm.
And Planet of the Apes, I don't think is especially adult or mature, or there's no reason why it should have been in the category except for the fact that there's a scene in the beginning. It's like right in the beginning. So the astronauts get blasted off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming back to the planet, which, obviously, how the movie ends. And they're awakened out of like hypersleep, and one of the 3 or 4, I don't even remember how many of them, had died at some point, and her or his, I really don't remember, was the body was like partially decomposed.
Yeah.
And that was it for me. That was like incredibly scarring.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes me, it's funny that you say that because that reminds me of my response to Raiders of the Lost Ark when I was a kid at the end.
Oh, when the faces get melted off? Right.
Yep.
Yeah. No, this was, again, maybe my memory of it is a lot more dark than it actually was.
Yeah.
But I remember it being like
jarring.
Realistic.
Oh, okay.
Quote unquote, right? Yeah. It wasn't as stylized as the faces melting off. But yeah, no, that's also perfectly, like, how old were you when you saw that?
Maybe 7 or 8. I went on a binge of like the classic, almost Universal. I think we were going on our family trip to Universal Studios, and I wanted to see all the movies. And so Jaws really freaked me out too, particularly the scene where you see the head come out of the bottom of the boat.
Right.
All of those classic moments, they actually really freaked me out as a kid.
Yeah. Well, the new Invisible Man movie was kind of an interesting take on jump scares that I really appreciated, actually. The movie kind of didn't land the plane, so to speak.
Yeah.
The first 2/3 of that movie are really good, and then the last act, maybe it's half. I don't know exactly when I would say the switch happens.
It's kind of like the evolve of movies, though. It doesn't really sound very good. Like there's no, so the last third of the movie just
it doesn't go like, it doesn't hit the floor, but there's a drop off.
Okay.
But for that first section, it's really interesting. It's really interesting, and it's the type of jump scare movie where it feels earned. Because obviously, the premise is self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Like, he finds a way for him to turn invisible. So the point is, like, in almost every scene, like, there's a lingering camera that sort of investigates the setting, and you can never really feel comfortable because very quickly it establishes, like,
you don't know if he's there.
The guy could be sitting in the corner of the room.
Yeah.
Completely motionless, and you have no way of knowing. And obviously that's the point of why all the like mental breakdown of the character.
Yeah.
But it just, and when you say it out loud, it's like, of course, having an invisible person in the room would be tense, but it's built in such a way and shot in such a way where I found really, really interesting and captivating.
It sounds almost like it captured some of that Blair Witch Project aspect, where it's a
little different, but I understand the comparison you're making.
Yeah, it just heightens the suspense with minimalism.
Right. Exactly. That's a good way of phrasing it. There is the irony of there being this big tentpole movie about gaslighting, and the star of the movie is a big Scientologist. Like, the irony was a little too much for me.
Wait a second. Is Kate Moss, is that her name? She's a Scientologist? Elizabeth Moss?
Yeah, Elizabeth Moss. She's a big one. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I believe she actually like grew up and her parents were, so she's been indoctrinated for a while. So like I understand why, but that part of it also left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth.
Wait, but she's also the main character in *The Handmaid's Tale*, which is about the same thing, right? This giant cult of.
Oh, I know. And she's like one of the, in my opinion, the most talented actresses out there.
Yeah.
Like there
Peggy
aren't.
Olson. That's all I really know her from. She was phenomenal as Peggy Olson in Mad Men.
Right, right. But there are very few people who can communicate as much with her facial expressions as she can, in my opinion. And yeah, it's just a shame. It's just a shame. That's all. It didn't ruin the movie, but like the fact that here we're talking about it for 2 minutes and it entered the conversation, like it's kind of the inescapable.
This is the thing that I always, and actually this is a bad example, as I think you have pointed out before, but this is the comparison I always make, is the baby in American Sniper, and you're like, yeah, but American Sniper was already bad, so good, fair enough. Good point.
Yeah. But no, this is sort of like outside information, sort of like art versus artist.
Yeah.
Things that, you know, people have debated forever, and each person's kind of evaluation of is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are like, whatever, I'm going to still watch Roman Polanski movies.
Yeah. Well, they
are great movies, but
that's up to every person. Obviously, I generally am more of the separate the art from the artist. Camp, but at the same time, it's really tough if somebody is still alive and can make money from the production, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'd say that it's becoming harder for me to separate the two more and more. I don't know if that's as a result of like our hyper politicized world or my age, and I have no idea what the underlying factor is. I've just felt myself more and more kind of struggling to be able to separate them.
Actually, I don't really disrespect that attitude, because like you're coming at it from the point of like there's another you can arrive at the same position that you are, just purely viscerally without thinking about it at all. It sounds like you're really like thinking at this at a complex moral level and kind of came to this conclusion.
Right.
I have less respect for people who just like have no thought at all about it and just kind of lean towards what they think that they should lean towards, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what the guiding principle is, but this is how I've felt myself, coming to those conclusions.
Oh, I hear you. So the last two things that I wanted to bring up are, these are, you almost forget that there are still television networks that exist, but FX has another season of Fargo coming out, the one with Chris Rock, and that looks intriguing. It also has Jason Schwartzman and a bunch of other people I don't quite remember off the top of my head. Have you seen the ad for it?
I've seen the ad. I haven't seen any of the show.
Okay. Any of the previous Fargo seasons? Okay.
0 minutes.
Season 1 and 2, I'd recommend. Season 3 was a bit.
Okay. It's something where people whose opinions I trust keep saying it's great and worthwhile.
Season 2, seriously, like, I mean, season 1 was great, but season 2, phenomenal. I thought it was
so it's serialized. Like every season is completely independent of the last, right?
Yeah. Anthology, right?
Yeah. That's the better word for it. Mm-hmm. Is the setting the same?
It's always up in that region.
Okay, so the setting's the same, and the sort of
it's not necessarily in Fargo each time. It'll be in like Duluth and other places up there, but the region is always up there. And it's cool because it's a character in the show. The region itself becomes a character in the show. I like shows.
Yeah, me too.
And then the other one, actually on the same network on FX, is American Crime Story. So the first season was OJ. Second one was Gianni Versace. Third one coming out apparently is going to be about the Clinton impeachment, Monica Lewinsky. So
interesting.
Could be interesting. I thought they did a pretty good job with the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, I haven't seen those either.
The guy that plays Andrew Cunanan, I think you would be extremely impressed by the guy that plays Versace's killer in the second season. The guy that plays Andrew Cunanan. I think that you would be very, very.
Do you know who the actor is?
I don't know his name, but he was in the show Glee. and I just don't know anything about Glee, to be honest with you.
I don't know a single
aside from
character.
Jane Lynch, that's the only person I know from Glee.
That's
And
true.
a guy, Corey Monteith, who somebody once told me I looked like, who died. So those are the only people I know from Glee.
Perfect. I'm pulling it up. Oh yeah, I definitely recognize this guy, this actor.
And
Aaron Everett Chris.
the fact that he was playing a very polished gay guy in the movie, as well as the fact that he was formerly in the show Glee, to me said this guy is absolutely gay, but apparently he's not gay. That blew my mind.
There's typecasting right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. No, what I was going to say is of the three, I think just based on the what's the word I'm looking for? On the premise, the Clinton one is probably the most interesting personally.
Yeah. I heard that they pushed it back because past the election, they were originally going to have it come out in like October, and they want to be talking like impeachment stuff just before, or they thought people were going to get, I don't know. I don't know why they moved it exactly. Maybe they just thought it was too much just before the election, but I guess it's coming out in like February or April now.
Wow. So we got almost a full year to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's something to keep eye out for at the very least.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, seriously, just skip season 1 of Fargo if you want and watch season 2. And then it does have like a thread of connection between all of them.
Yeah, no, I don't like doing that.
Okay.
Personally.
But Fargo and then Assassination of Gianni Versace. Check them out.
So you prefer that one to the OJ?
I thought the OJ one was phenomenal. I just wasn't sure. Some people really have their full of OJ. Like they just are kind of like, I feel like it was a really awesome angle. The acting was great. I say 100% check out that one too.
Okay. Yeah, the Versace one's something that I know absolutely nothing about, like completely foreign. So that, I don't know, it'll color, knowing nothing and knowing certain things color your experience in different ways, So yeah. Do you think that there was more time dedicated to kind of presenting all that background stuff in the Versace one? Since I guess the assumption is most people at least have a vague structural idea of what happened with OJ, but I don't think the same for Versace.
Well, they were told in somewhat different structured ways. So with OJ, the OJ one focused entirely within the courtroom.
Right, it was a trial.
And each episode was a piece of that courtroom saga, and it was amazing. And then the Versace one was almost told in a, what's his name, a Chris Nolan type of way, where the episodes ran in reverse towards the actual crime, but they show the crime in the first episode, and then it rewound through like this killer's previous interactions with people, and then it would show also clips of Versace when he was alive and what his interactions were with Donatella, his sister, and a bunch of other people. And then eventually, like towards the end of the show, Versace and Cunanan kind of merged.
Yeah, it was like an intersection.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. I like I said before, I kind of like metatextual ways of presenting the storyline. So that I'm into that.
Yeah, it's in the guy that played Versace. I don't know the dude's name. I've seen him in a ton of stuff, but it's more like bit parts. He did a really good job as well. So the acting, the way that it was structured, everything really good.
And it's the same creative team.
Yeah, it still carries the American crime story heading.
Right. Well, I mean, were the directors the same, or?
I don't know, actually. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Especially for an anthology show, it's it's interesting who's making the anthology, right? Is it just FX saying we're to be in charge and hire the creative team and it's going to be completely standalone?
Yeah.
Or I assume that there's some holdover between and some of the creative team is shared, but have to look into it. Yeah.
Do it. All right.
That's the new trend. The anthology shows.
Yeah, the anthology shows, they really hit their market because a lot of people go, I don't want to go back and watch 7 seasons of something.
Right.
Or if I miss, somebody was just commenting the other day that their girlfriend was watching Game of Thrones, but they weren't that into it. But they were sort of putting up with it to please their girlfriend, and then they walked out of the room for like 30 seconds and missed some snippet of dialogue, and the girlfriend was like, "Oh, you have to see the dialogue. You missed the whole show's not going to make sense anymore." And he was like, "Well, I don't know if I really want to watch a show like that, where like if I miss 10 seconds of dialogue, the whole plot line of the show unravels."
Unravels, yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Any last words?
No, man, it's been fun as always.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll do some more over the next month at the very least, as this is enforced.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, through Zoom or through Google Hangouts. Maybe we'll get that. We have plenty of time to figure out Google Hangouts.
Well, yeah, this is on my laptop now, so it is what it is.
All right, Ryan, as always, thank you for coming on.
Take care, man. Be safe out there.
You too.
Catch you later.
Later.